So the fourth theatrical SpongeBob movie, The Search for SquarePants, comes out December 19th of this year. And a new theatrical SpongeBob movie doesn't come along very often. And even when it does, sometimes it gets screwed over by a global pandemic, which is what happened with the third one, and that kind of incredibly screwed over its rollout. It had a bunch of merch push based on a lot of the Camp Coral tie-ins, a lot of cereal promotions, things like that. And they were all kind of out of time with the actual release of the movie. They were all coming out before. We get the Wendy's set of toys, a bunch of plushies showing up in 7-Elevens and different other locations, things like that promoting Sponge on the Run. And then the movie came out like a year later, completely diminishing the purpose of any of that merchandise coming out because nobody even knew what it was tied to because it just wasn't coming out, except if you were like in Canada. So now with the first actual worldwide theatrical release of a SpongeBob movie in 10 years, we actually have a solid rollout that ties in with the movie, which gives me my first opportunity to actually cover these things as they come out. So I wanted to take this video to go over a lot of the stuff that's been teased so far for the SpongeBob Search for SquarePants merchandise rollout. Because while a lot of things haven't come out yet, there has been a lot of things put up for pre-order so far, some social media posts that tease upcoming products, a bit of leaked information here and there that can kind of guide us to where things might be heading later in the year. I'm gonna have a lot to say before we get to those things, but keep watching and I promise it'll be worth your wait. And we have one product that has actually already started coming out in stores. I was able to go to my local Walmart and pick up the new Olipop collaboration SpongeBob sodas. And this is the first Search for SquarePants merchandise product that has been officially released. If more stuff comes out like this, I honestly feel a little bit determined to collect as many bits of Search for SquarePants merchandise as I can find, which is kind of why I'm making this video. I'm basically doing like a checklist of sorts for myself for when I want to collect this stuff in the future and then probably talk about it on video. So I'm gonna open this up and I'm gonna try the SpongeBob Search for SquarePants Olipop collaboration. I'm kind of a soda guy. I'm more of like a sparkling ice fan through and through. I mean, it's pineapple flavor. That can be kind of touch and go in terms of being like a drink flavor. I don't know if I'd like willingly drink pineapple juice like half the time. I know that when Wendy's did their Krabby Patty collab meal, they had a pineapple flavored Frosty and that wasn't too bad. And I'll eat the fruit itself. The fruit itself is a good, pineapple tastes awesome, as it is. I don't know how well it translates into a soda flavor, but I mean, if I put it on my pizza, then I guess I'll have it in a drink. I mean, that just tastes like straight up pineapple juice. No real ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not even like fizzy like a soda. I don't know what I really expected. A new kind of soda. Nothing really exciting about it. It's just kind of a good pineapple drink. I mean, I don't really know what I expected. I don't know much about this brand, but just a good pineapple flavored drink. Like there's some kind of frothiness to it. I guess it's like a good kind of soda. It's like one of those health sodas. Look at that little Gary right there. He's got the little bandana on. That's really cute. I really like the art on all these. Like you see he's like holding onto the rope. Like this isn't just like a stock, like this is a stock SpongeBob base, but he's got kind of like a little bit more detail. It's kind of like a redraw with a little bit more detail. He's got the fit that he has in the movie. He's just kind of like drawn a little bit clearer and nicer. I'm surprised they honestly didn't draw him in like the 3D style, but this is very charming the way it is. It reminds me of the olden days of SpongeBob merchandise, but it's honestly a little bit higher quality. I feel like a lot of the stock images they use nowadays are very like flash vectors and they don't really look very good. I want to find the one that's the eye patch one. The SpongeBob can designs in every pack may vary. It's a surprise. So you're saying I gotta buy more of these in order to find the one where he has the eye patch on? That's the way they sell it to you. To get you to buy more of them is like, hey, you want the other kinds of designs? You gotta keep buying these. We're not letting you off the hook that easily. It's SpongeBob brand. You're here to get hooked, right? You're riding the hook. Anyway, I think it's time to move on to our next part of the video where we now are going to go into what other kinds of merchandise has been teased for the upcoming fall season leading up to the Search for SquarePants premiere in December of 2025. So in this video, I actually want to do some comparisons to previous rollouts they've done for the previous SpongeBob movies because I think there's some similarities and also things that each one kind of succeeds at better. This is so we can properly deduce the quality of this fourth movie's rollout and see if they're skipping out on anything or if they're just overall doing a worse job than they used to do. As far as I can tell, they're doing a great job, but I do want to go look back and see if there is anything that might be missing from this new batch of merchandise. I mostly want to go over the rollouts for the second and third movie, mostly because the first one is kind of incomparable. That was during the time when the show was pretty freshly starting to become a worldwide phenomenon. Like, if you scale it like this, 1999 it came out, it was pretty successful. 2001 is when they started airing it every single day. 2004? That's when everyone was talking about SpongeBob. And the heavy promotion for the first SpongeBob movie only helped to get even more people talking about SpongeBob. It's one of the most insane multimedia marketing pushes I could imagine for a show like SpongeBob. You had video games, you had fruit snacks, you had cereal, you had the show of taking over full businesses like Target and Burger King were like the place to go for SpongeBob movie stuff. Burger King especially, because they had a ton of those gigantic SpongeBob balloons on top of a bunch of their restaurants. Not only that, but this was kind of marketed towards adults too. You had the Flaming Lips going on Conan O'Brien performing their song for the SpongeBob movie soundtrack the night of the movie's release. There's a Burger King commercial that's just adults bragging about their SpongeBob watches. They made sure that this movie was marketed towards as many kinds of people as physically possible. Which is why when you move over to the second and third movies rollouts, they seem a little bit simpler, a little bit more geared towards kids. Not exactly trying to make the big push they originally went for, but I still think that each of these movies' rollouts are very special, especially the further we get from the peak of the show's popularity and the peak of cable's popularity. I mean, it's pretty rare nowadays for any company to take a television cartoon and turn it into a big theatrical movie without it getting kind of completely thrown under the radar. I feel like the most successful theatrical adaptations we've had recently are more in the preschool area, like Paw Patrol. We're also getting, I believe, a theatrical Bluey movie sometime within the coming years. Kids entertainment has definitely skewed way younger as the years have gone by. And now we're at a point where, unless it's an already established toy line, you're not really gonna see any proper merchandise based on a kid's 6 to 11 cartoon. And if you do see something like that, it's either very rare or it's more geared towards adults. That's why all the SpongeBob merchandise you see nowadays is more based on the memes than anything else. You get very high quality vinyl figures and things like that, but you'd be hard pressed to find just a plain old action figure or a playset. They mostly just sell very high quality collector's items. SpongeBob as we know it right now is not very popular with kids. Sure, it gets very high viewership, but you don't really hear kids getting excited about it in the same way they do something like Bluey or Paw Patrol. Either that or one of the people they watch on YouTube or Twitch. And that's just a side effect of the changing with the times, but it's just weird because I kind of expected SpongeBob to be one of those franchises that was multi-generational, like Looney Tunes or something of the sort, where it stays popular for decades upon decades because more kids get introduced to it over time and they start loving it just as much, and the merchandise sales just keep going strong and they keep making new products for new generations to enjoy. But it really does feel like there's a startling lack of anything SpongeBob anywhere, and it's kind of shocking, which is what makes rollouts for movies like this even more special, because right now the state of SpongeBob merchandise is honestly really dire unless you really like the SpongeBob memes. Most of the kid-geared SpongeBob stuff is very cheaply made and mostly delivered to bargain bin stores like Five Below. You don't really see a SpongeBob toy filling the stores in every place you can find. It's just stuffed wherever you can find it in Five Below. So that's why I think this is very important as a SpongeBob fan personally, where I feel like the franchise that I once saw as this global phenomenon has kind of dropped off and become less relevant as a children's icon. I think it's great that I can still get excited for a new movie with a bunch of new merchandise to go with it. So let's not beat any further around the bush. Let's start talking about what we know so far of the SpongeBob Search for SquarePants rollout, and see if it stacks up to the Sponge Out of Water and Sponge on the Run's merchandising push. So the first thing I want to talk about is something that I'm not entirely sure I can confirm that it's made to tie in with Search for SquarePants, but it has a lot of similarities and it's going to be released very close to the release date of the movie. This, of course, is the new SpongeBob video game Titans of the Tide, releasing on November 18th of this year. I'm recording this addendum because I made most of this video before the trailer came out, and then the trailer came out as I was finishing editing it, so I might as well cover it accurately because beforehand I was just going off of leaks. But this is THQ Nordic's third SpongeBob game overall, second original SpongeBob game, following the Cosmic Shake. I know the original THQ made SpongeBob games in the past, but this is basically the third game since SpongeBob's refresh in the video game market, which started with Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. And it follows SpongeBob and Patrick, who swap ghost abilities, while King Neptune, the ruler of the sea, and the Flying Dutchman, I guess in this case he's the ruler of the underworld, having the feud of all feuds, and it's causing the destruction of Bikini Bottom. I think that's such an amazing story that I'm surprised they haven't done in SpongeBob before. Having what's basically the embodiments of heaven and hell for the SpongeBob universe battling it out is probably the most insane concept I can think of, but it also makes complete perfect sense. It's such a great game idea. I'm so excited to play it when it comes out. Not only that, but I love the David Hasselhoff narration in the trailer. I hope he has some kind of feature in the game, but if not, the trailer alone is amazing. Also, how can you bring back Queen Amphitrite and Mindy, which doesn't even make any sense with the King Neptune design they're using, and not bring back Triton? Where is Triton in this picture? He should be there. Where is he? I don't even care if they change his voice actor. Just have him in there. They're gonna have all these other ones in there. If they're gonna try and respect the lore, then respect the lore all the way. And the main reason I want to talk about this is because it comes out a month before the fourth movie comes out, and it stars the Flying Dutchman. There's no real explicit connection to the fourth movie, but all the ghost motifs being a very prominent element, and the closeness to the release date, make this probably as close to a tie-in game as we could get, which is more than Sponge on the Run can say. But I do think that it's pretty cool that we're getting a video game at the same time as the fourth movie coming out. We didn't get anything like this for Sponge on the Run, unless you count Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, which came out in 2020, which was originally around the time that Sponge on the Run was supposed to come out. I don't think that's much of a connection. I think that was more of a 20th anniversary thing. But back when Sponge Out of Water came out, they actually had a video game that featured the same superhero designs as Sponge Out of Water. It again wasn't a one-to-one adaptation of the movie like the first SpongeBob movie game was, but it served as a separate medium to get more viewers engaged in watching the movie that it's related to. Which is why it's great that Search for SquarePants has something like this. That's something that the first and second movies had that made their rollout great, so that's one thing to check off the list. Not a lot of movies nowadays get a video game adaptation, so it's really cool to see SpongeBob have anything close to that now. Another thing the fourth movie has that all three previous ones had are children's book adaptations of the movie. Whether it's a junior novelization, or a coloring book, or part of the Ready to Read series, or one of the Little Golden Books, something that only the second and third ones had so far. All of these movies have had book adaptations, and those are pretty much in any store. I see a lot of those in the supermarket that I work in. That's why I was happy to see that Search for SquarePants continued this trend. They have a junior novelization, a Little Golden Book, a Step into Reading book, an activity book, and just a regular picture book. I think the first movie had a ton more books than the other three movies have, but this is another point in which Search for SquarePants is equal to its predecessors. I do want to buy these, but I feel like if I read them, I'm gonna get totally spoiled on the movie. So I'll probably just purchase them, then display them and not look at them until after I watch the movie. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is something that isn't exactly confirmed, but there's a lot of stuff that is alluding to this probably being the case. So Kellogg's has had a long history of working with Nickelodeon on SpongeBob cereal. The first normal variant of the cereal released in 2003 with a jellyfish-shaped multigrain cereal bit and 3 SpongeBob-themed marshmallow bits. Then, in 2004, they made an updated version of the cereal to tie in with the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, and it included an extra plankton-shaped marshmallow bit. The cereal rights for SpongeBob actually ended up moving over to General Mills in 2014 with their own different version of the cereal that, instead of doing marshmallow bits with multigrain pieces, they had just fruit-flavored cereal pieces that were shaped like SpongeBob and Patrick. Then in 2020, Kellogg's got back the rights, and because Sponge on the Run was supposed to release in 2020, they came out with a new version of the SpongeBob cereal that had the same marshmallow pieces, but different multigrain pieces. I remember trying the 2021. I think that I prefer the 2014 version because I also remember having that too. But it was cool to see them go back to almost the same design as they did back in the day. Which leads us to now where, after they posted the SpongeBob Search for SquarePants teaser, the Kellogg's Instagram account actually reposted the trailer to their story. Now, I don't know why they would do that unless they had some kind of collaboration planned. Whether it be cereal box toys, which they don't really do as much, or their they're bringing back the SpongeBob cereal once again. I'm making an addendum while editing this. Literally just look at the text on the Instagram story. We're searching near a pineapple under the sea. We have a feeling we'll find something worth pouring milk over. They're making the SpongeBob cereal again. It's basic confirmation. We're probably gonna get stuff like Rice Krispies and Pop-Tarts too, knowing Kellogg's. That's pretty cool. I don't know why I just completely overlooked this caption right here, but now you see it. I don't know if this also means we'll get the same thing we got with Sponge on the Run with cereal box toys, but at least I get to make a video reviewing the SpongeBob cereal at some point, as well as probably the other products too. I hope they maybe improve on the recipe because I do remember the 2021 not really being my favorite. Maybe they could bring back the jellyfish pieces instead because I never got to try it like that. Now we have another pretty cool thing that we have an image for, but I feel like I have a lot of reservations and doubts about whether or not we might actually get it in the US. So Burger King has had a long relationship with SpongeBob specifically. They did a lot of stuff with Nickelodeon in the past, but SpongeBob was one of their mainstays. They used to do like 2 sets of SpongeBob toys per year back in the 2000s. I'm pretty sure whatever contract Burger King and Nickelodeon had ran out in 2011, and since then SpongeBob has kind of jumped between a bunch of different places in terms of selling toys for fast food restaurants. McDonald's of course had the awesome 2012 Olympics set, as well as a set of straw toppers in 2015 celebrating the release of Sponge Out of Water. And then, in 2020, Wendy's ended up releasing their SpongeBob keychains in celebration of Sponge on the Run, a year before the movie ended up coming out on Paramount+. But in the past couple years, Burger King seems to have regained the rights to SpongeBob. In 2021, Burger King released a set of Camp Coral-themed chain reaction toys. Then, as recent as 2024, Burger King released a set of SpongeBob Tiki Cups. I actually have this one that I got from a Burger King that was in walking distance to me. And Burger King has had a number of collaborations with Paramount in the past couple years, such as Transformers 1 and the new Smurfs movie earlier this year. So that's why when I saw this teaser from an international Burger King for SpongeBob Search for SquarePants toys, I felt at least a 50% confidence that we were going to get those same toys in the US. But the main reason I say that I have my reservations and doubts is because I just got my heart broken by Burger King because I thought they were going to come out with some Superman toys solely because there was a bunch of other countries where they were coming out with Superman themed toys. All these websites and everywhere were saying, oh yeah, Superman toys are going to start in the US on July 11th, and then they didn't. It was all Naruto. And I haven't seen Naruto, and I'm sure if I watched it, I'd love it. But I loved that Superman movie, and they've had DC toys at Burger King a lot recently. I thought we were getting a Superman set. I thought that would have been so cool, but neither Superman or Fantastic Four got any kids meal toys this year. I thought that was pretty weird, but I guess that shouldn't exactly stray me from believing that SpongeBob will probably have a set later this year at some place. Maybe it won't be a Burger King set. Maybe it'll be a McDonald's set or a Wendy's set again in the US. But I feel like if they're doing a lot of the same collaborations they did for Sponge on the Run, then they probably have something in the works kids meal toy wise. Regardless, I think the toys in the teaser look pretty interesting, though I found out that these are actually recolors of toys that have come out in other countries, which isn't a bad thing, especially considering we've never gotten these toys in the US, but I think it is kind of cheap to do just a repaint of kids meal toys that have already come out, especially because apparently the Burger King toys that were teased are repaints of McDonald's toys from another country, which I find especially confusing. I don't even know how that works. Those are two completely different restaurants with completely different like toy making. I don't know how it works. So for all I know, it could be completely fake and I've just been toyed with. But I think that's something we're gonna have to wait and see for later into the year. And knowing Burger King, we're not even gonna know until the day before it comes out. Because Burger King does not like advertising the fact that they have toys. It's a very sad thing. They used to have good advertisements. They used to have like Iron Man crashing down in front of the CGI at Burger King and it looked so sick. They used to have the best commercials. And now, they just try to keep their toys a secret. Honestly, it's kind of crazy. Like, you won't see anything like online. They'll not even put like a page on the website about it. It's literally you just kind of have to find out for yourself, or some YouTuber will talk about it. It's actually kind of insane. But anyway, that brings us to the last thing that we have. Again, we're kind of running on a lot of vague information. We're still very, very early in the rollout. We've only just started getting teasers and posters and stuff like that. Clearly all the merchandise is going to come next afterwards, and we're gonna see where that goes from there. But we have one last thing, and that's a bunch of movie theater merchandise. So this is probably stuff that's gonna be sold in maybe AMC, things like that. Though there is a chance that some of this stuff could also be sold outside of the movie theaters. But what we know is that this was a picture taken at a convention in Europe, at a display set up by the PCO group, who make different popcorn buckets and other kinds of merchandise for any movie that's coming out. In this picture, we have stuff like Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie, How to Train Your Dragon, the live action movie, things that are coming out this year. And so we can see on a couple of these shelves, we see one, a popcorn bucket that's made to look like SpongeBob's Pineapple House. I've seen some other pictures of a SpongeBob popcorn bucket. I don't know if that's the exact same. I can't really see the character figures on it like the other one has, but we have that. And at the bottom is the real surprise. We have a bunch of different themed plushies based on the movie. We have Gary with a bandana, like the Gary on the can right there. We have a bunch of SpongeBob ones with the pirate outfit. We have Patrick, we got Mr. Krabs, all in their unique Search for SquarePants themed pirate outfits. In fact, I think we see a big version of Patrick and then a small version of Patrick right there in the corner in the bottom right. I still don't know what that means, and whether or not they're going to sell these plushies outside of the movie theater or if that's an exclusive for wherever they're going to put them. But that gives me a lot of hope for whatever other merchandise we end up getting, especially when it comes to toys and figures and plushies based on the movie. We don't really get enough plushies of SpongeBob these days. I hope we get some good ones, especially if they're pirate themed, because I think anything SpongeBob does that's pirate themed is honestly pretty sick, and the fact that we're getting merchandise based on them being in these pirate outfits is honestly really cool. I hope we get more Flying Dutchman themed merchandise, honestly, because I think we don't really get a lot of Flying Dutchman merchandise as is throughout the history of the show. I mean, we've gotten the Lego set, we've gotten a couple things like that. We don't really have a plush based on the Flying Dutchman, I don't think. I can do some quick research on it though. Let me look it up. So he has one, and from what it looks like, only one. He only has one. And I think it's a very recent one too. Yeah, he has a couple toys based on his pirate ship, but otherwise, Flying Dutchman is honestly one of the more underrepresented characters in merchandise, and I think this is an opportunity to get more cool stuff like that. So I'm excited to see what they'll do. I'm not entirely sure yet, but he's a very fun, well-designed character, and I think he'd be really fun to have as a plush or a figure or something like that. I hope they give him some justice in there, considering he's the main villain of the movie. The opportunity is there, and I do hope that they'll take it. I think that's a pretty interesting display. I don't really know if that's all they're doing or if there's more that I'm missing. But that's a pretty cool display. I don't know if we probably weren't meant to see that yet, but also it was at the convention and people are tweeting about it, so it's out in the open. So again, to close things off, I want to go back to these other movies, especially the second and third movies, and see what kinds of merchandise they had and what hasn't been represented yet in this current batch of Search for SquarePants stuff that's been teased. So looking back at Sponge on the Runs page, I actually just realized that they did movie theater exclusive plushes for that movie too. I don't know how those got distributed after the movie didn't come out in theaters, but those probably have to exist somewhere. Maybe they were sold in the theaters anyway, even though the movie wasn't coming out there. Anyway, also for Sponge on the Run, we had a calendar, Alpha Toys made figurines and mini plushes. There was a bunch of Imaginext toys based on the Camp Coral characters. We had Funko Pops of the Camp Coral characters. We had Pop-Tarts, Rice Krispie Treats, then a bunch of other international stuff. I'm not sure which is which around here. To be honest, that's a little bit less merchandise than I was expecting. Maybe I should just not be using the SpongeBob wiki as a reference. Maybe there's more that they just don't have on here, but from what it looks like, it seems like they only had a few collaborations. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna get another Imaginext set based on Search for SquarePants. We might get maybe another Alpha Toys set. So let's move over to Sponge Out of Water, which had a bunch of different superhero themed merchandise from a lot of different companies. I think one of the highlights for me, when I think of Sponge Out of Water, I think of the Mega Bloks set. We're definitely not getting Mega Bloks sets again, but I wonder if Nickelodeon's gonna release anything Snap and Switch wise, because that's the building brick company they're working with right now. And they've been releasing a good number of SpongeBob sets per year. They actually just recently released a Flying Dutchman themed set with a SpongeBob figure that just kind of looks like a generic pirate themed Mega Bloks figure. I wonder if they're going to do a Search for SquarePants themed push for Snap and Switch, making a couple more themed sets, or if they're just not going to do anything like that at all, because Snap and Switch clearly is a very cheaply made brand that's just kind of going by the numbers and repeating a bunch of old stuff to save money. I don't really know if they'll do any tie-ins, but who knows? They have a lot of figurines based on the superheroes. They have a couple watches. They have, again, a calendar. So hopefully we get a calendar for Search for SquarePants. I guess that's something to maybe look forward to. They have a lot of themed markers and pencils and pens for Sponge Out of Water, as well as pencil holders. They have a lot of different school supplies. This is a very school supplies themed collection here. They actually had Halloween costumes for Invincibubble, Mr. Super Awesomeness, Sour Note. Then of course you got the McDonald's toys, Jollibee toys, which I think that's a different country. And then going down here, there's more Imaginext and Mega Bloks sets. I do wonder if we're gonna do Imaginext again, because they seem to have been pretty consistent in the past couple movies with doing Imaginext sets for SpongeBob. I don't know if that's gonna carry over, but that would be pretty interesting to see. That would be something I'd probably buy for the collection. They also put Sponge Out of Water theming on the Gummy Krabby Patties candy, the Pirate's Booty snack, Pillsbury sugar cookies. They put it on Go-Gurt. They put it on everything. They have comforters and sheets based on the movie, backpacks, tumblers, window panels, beach towels, pretty much everything possible you could ever think of. I guess Sponge Out of Water had a lot of good products. The superhero stuff was probably a really good way to market the movie. That does make me wonder then whether or not Search for SquarePants will do anything like that and go to as many different things as possible like Sponge Out of Water did. I feel like maybe we're not going to get anything extreme like that, but also this is the first time we've gotten a soda that tied in with a SpongeBob movie, so anything's possible. If we're already starting strong like this, we probably are going to get a lot of other stuff, maybe even after the movie comes out, because that often happens too. Like with Sponge Out of Water, one of the most interesting things was the Blu-ray release that was actually a really interesting slipcover that had an Invincibubble mask that you could put over it that functioned as a bubble wand. I think that was incredible. I think some of these also came with a free popcorn bag. Yeah, that's really interesting too. I think I got that back in the day, and then I went and got some Target popcorn, and Target popcorn is pretty damn good. I can't even lie. That's something that's very unique to Sponge Out of Water. We didn't get anything crazy like that afterwards, but that was really interesting to have. But yeah, the year is still young. We still have a lot of time left before the movie comes out, and really anything could happen. And I'll be sure to make another video updating you on anything else that comes out. But that's gonna do it for now. That's pretty much all I have in terms of the merchandise that we know about so far, but there's going to be plenty more, so if you want to know about more of them, stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, and I'll do more videos reviewing products as soon as I get them. So I'm going to be getting, the books. I'm going to get if the cereal comes out, then I'll get the cereal. If the Burger King toys come out, I'll get the Burger King toys. And anything else I talked about in this video, I'm going to try and get as much of them as I possibly can, and I'll try and make a huge display with as many different SpongeBob movie related things as I possibly can. I think this will be really cool. It's not often that I get to do a big SpongeBob movie hype rollout event thing. The last time a SpongeBob movie came out in theaters is in 2015, and I was a little kid then. I didn't really have the ability to make good content off of it. And then for Sponge on the Run, all of the videos I made based on looking at the merchandise were a year before the movie came out, and just all the hype died down, and it was just such a mess. So this is the first time that I can properly do this stuff, and I really hope you guys enjoy watching and learning about this stuff. And if you have any other information you want to send my way about any other SpongeBob Search for SquarePants merchandise that you've seen or you've heard about, stuff that's coming up, feel free to let me know. You can also let me know on Twitter. But that's going to do it for me for now, and I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next time. See you, bye!